Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Morning, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. This is Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by the aforementioned fantasyguru.com. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can find me on the social media platforms with the tag at the Ray Flowers. You can find this show on YouTube, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can find it on fantasyguru.com. Click that Elite Plus tab at the top. It'll take you to this show as well as the other podcast at the channel. At this website, excuse me. Jeff Mann's got a podcast. Armando Marsal's got a podcast. We got the racing podcast on there. Check it out over at fantasyguru.com. And you can also find us on Twitter X and Facebook and all those spots at the fantasyguru.com moniker. So it's a Monday. We're here again every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, giving all the goodness, all the talk about the last 24 hours, usually how we're rolling here on the show. Don't forget as well that the Elite Sports Show with myself and Justin Fensterman is tonight, 8 to 10 Eastern. It's Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10 Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. And a question, if those of you listening, watching along live here in Discord, or I guess in the chat room is a better way to put it. How many of you listen to the night show? Does anyone listen to the night show? What are your thoughts? Love to hear them. So put them in there. The Elite Sports Show, again, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Thursday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, where we talk about game live action in the games, talk about the core four, talk about bets, that kind of thing. Let me know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Don't forget as well that you can get all of our products besides football for one price. All the products besides football for one price. If you buy the wagering Major League Baseball package, if you buy the DFS Major League Baseball package, what do you get? You get NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, soccer, and racing, and get all of it for free. Pretty good add-on, right? I'm going to answer the question myself and say, yes, it's an excellent add-on, Ray Flowers. So sign up for the MLB DFS or the MLB wagering, and you get all those other sports for free. It's a nice little bonus from us to you. Then we've also got the VIP package. You see it there on the screen. The all-in VIP Platinum membership gets you everything we do for all the sports, all the articles, Discord, for all the sports, any live streams, podcasts, videos that we do for all the sports, the rankings for all the sports, the data for all the sports. Yeah, you get everything, and you get it at a 50% discount. 50 special that's the promo code. Use the promo code 50 special to get the all-in VIP Platinum membership at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's dive into what the show is going to be about today. Today, we got a little bit of the performance news, a little bit of the injury news, and then a big topic. Jeff Mans and myself, Ray Flowers. I don't even know who I'm talking about. Jeff's got the show on Sirius XM Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm with him every Wednesday. On that show, Jeff and I have been critical. Not critical in the sense that overly negative, even though it's been taken that way by people over the years. We've been critical of the fantasy baseball space and how a lot of people are stuck in their ways. We've been critical over Major League Baseball and how it's marketed its product and all that. So I found an interesting article on MLB.com. I don't know how much of it's propaganda or truth, but we're going to talk about it. Are MLB fans getting younger? We'll talk about that toward the end of the show. Before we get to that, performance updates on guys like Luis Severino, Tobias Myers, Hector Neris, Ryan Pepiot, Nick Lodolo on the hill. We talked a lot about Corbin Carroll and his struggles here on the show. Ronald Acuna isn't struggling anywhere near as badly, but he's not Ronald Acuna from last year. So we'll do a little bit of a dive into Ronald Acuna. We'll talk about the suddenly blazing hot Joe Adell. Christopher Morel, who had the big hit last night for the Cubs. Tyler Nevin for the Athletics, a guy who's performing very well for a team that doesn't perform very well. On the hill, we'll stay with that A's team. On the injury news, we'll stay with that A's team and talk Zack Gelof. Nolan Jones is finally headed to the injured list with his back issue. What does that mean for the Rockies? Christian Yelich update. Jhoan Duran update. Great Kimbrel update. We talked about Kimbrel on the show earlier this week, which would have been yesterday. Justin Steele update. Kodai Senga, Jesus Luzardo, and Cade Cavailli, who at one point in time was an up-and-coming potential, front of the rotation guy, a 2 or 3 starter at the big league level. Maybe we'll see that guy this season pitching that way for the Nationals. We'll talk a little bit more about him. And again, remember, you can always use that promo code FSD20 for a discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's have a little talk here. Luis Severino, who at one point in time was one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. He then became one of the better pitchers in baseball. And then injuries struck and poor performance hit him, and it kind of got messy for Luis Severino. And the Yankees said, we're going to move on. And, it's understandable. For a couple of years, he wasn't Luis Severino. Last year, he had a 6.7 ERA. Goes to the Mets this year looking to rekindle things. And, it's been 6 starts, and it's a long season. And the last time he threw 115 innings was 2018. Or 2018. It's been a long time. So we'll see. I think that's the real key with Severino is, can he stay healthy long enough to, make 25, 30 starts? But he's got his ERA down at 2.3 and his whip at 106, and that was punctuated by his effort last night against the Cubs. He actually had a no-hitter going into the 8th inning, had 7 no-hit innings last night. In the end, he allowed 1 hit. It was a single run, walked 2 guys, struck out 5, and 8 innings of work. That's every outing this year for the Mets. He's had at least 5 innings pitched. And the last 3 efforts have been 6, 6, and 8 innings. So he's giving him depth. He's consistently, giving the Mets a chance to win ball games. Is he back to pre-injury Severino, the dominator that we loved in the fantasy space? It's not even close. His K rate used to be in the 30s. Now it's 22%. It's a little below the league average. He has brought the walks back down. Okay. And it's, again, not peak Severino, but it's just, about a point above his career mark, a little less than that. So he's controlled the strike zone very well. Has been fortunate. The batting average in balls in play is low. He's been unfortunate. The left on base percentage is low. So we kind of get a meeting of the minds there in the middle. And you look at his expected ERA, it's 3.2. If we go a little bit further down, if I can find it while we're talking here, Ray, where can you not find these things? You can find his Sierra, it's 3.8, and his xFIP is 3.8. So while the ERA of 2.3 isn't quote unquote earned, it's pitching pretty well. And I think all of us would take a 3.7 ERA from Luis Severino if he threw 160 innings. Because then he'd give you 160 strikeouts with a 1-2 whip. That would totally play in 2024 baseball. I think last night's effort reminded people that there are still moments where he can dial it up. Again, it was 1 start, but as we discussed, he's been very consistent from start to start. On a global scale, again, I think the biggest factor to consider in the negative is the lack of strikeouts. He's got a 71% first pitch strike rate, which is fantastic. Easily would be a career best. Fantastic number. His CSW is still 25%. His swinging strike rate is still 9%. These numbers still are not suggestive of big strikeouts. So really, you have to look at him and think more of a control pitcher who tries to keep the ball off the barrel of the bat. Would it have been better if the strikeout rate was higher? Sure. Would it be more exciting in the fantasy base? Absolutely. But with all the Bailey Falters and Cody Bradfords and Mitchell Parkers of the world, Luis Severino is settling it very nicely in 2024. Tobias Myers is the next person up, the next man up, I guess I should say. Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, basically said, look, we need a guy in the rotation, and it's going to be this guy. They just lost. The most recent guy to go down was Wade Miley for the Brewers. So Tobias Myers, do we add him? I know that I'm usually reluctant on these youngsters for a variety of reasons, but let's understand that Myers is 26, and everything suggests he's just a guy. And I don't mean that offensively. It's just the truth. I checked a bunch of scouting services to make sure I wasn't reading the data incorrectly. Did some digging last night. I'm seeing grades of 30, 35 for him on the 2080 scale. If you're a 30, 35, that doesn't even say you're a big leaguer, to be honest. There are some sources I checked that didn't even have him ranked. He's not even a top 30, 50 prospect kind of thing with the Brewers. So, maybe we catch the old proverbial lightning in the bottle here with Tobias Myers. I'm not suggesting anyone go at him. I'm just not. I don't think the skills are there for long-term success. I think he's a swingman at best. I think he'll be overmatched if he's asked to start, once through the rotation. The book will get out, if you will, and he'll be in trouble. So be very cautious with Tobias Myers. Next up is Hector Neris, and this got interesting really quick, didn't it? Neris had another save last night. That's his 4th save of the year. It really does seem like it's now not just likely to be his job, it's his job. He's had 5 save chances in the last, 8 days, something like that. He's got 4 saves the last 10 days, 8 days, whatever the hell it was. I didn't look it up. Sorry. Last weekish. Alzolay is no longer a thing. Someone asked me in Discord over at fantasyguru.com yesterday, said, hey, Ray, What do we do with Adbert Alzolay? And it's like, well, at this point, we could drop him. And, if things change, if Neris has that cold spell that we talked about, if he struggles, if he has that issue that'll come up from time to time with him, then we'll reassess. But right now, Neris is cruising. And he's only allowed 1 run his last 7 appearances, and boom, there it is. So maybe after all those years of struggling to get the role, maybe after all those years of getting opportunities and then falling out of the role, maybe this is finally the year Hector Neris does it. And it's so funny because, you end up being a fan of a player, as I have been of Neris for years. I've had him for years. Don't have a single share of Hector Neris this year. And this is what we get, right? Gosh, it's kind of like the Jesse Winker thing. I believed in Jesse Winker forever. I had Jesse Winker in my dynasty league. He struggled with the 550 OPS the last 2 years, whatever the hell it was. Finally had to drop him this offseason. It's like, look, man, okay. And then he comes out and he's back to being Jesse Winker. It's how it goes sometimes. But Hector Neris getting it done for the Cubbies. Ryan Pepiot, really, really good effort yet again. 7 strikeouts, 6 scoreless innings against the Brewers last night. 6 innings of work in 3 straight starts. That's pretty impressive. Now, so much of this is because he's not giving up hard contact. He's not walking anybody. So there's a little bit, not luck's not the right word, but there's a little bit of fortune here. There are obviously going to be efforts where he's out there and, more balls are put in play and all that, which could reduce his ability to go deeper into games. But, right now, man, he hasn't allowed more than a run his last 3 outings, 3 straight quality starts. Like that's, batters are hitting 170 against them. So you understand that we're at a spot with Pepiot that, he's over his skis a little bit. We know we're at a spot with him that there's not going to be 160 innings here. It's not happening, but he's pitching excellently. And the real question now is, what did you pay to get him? Because you want him. If he's on the waiver wire, which I'm surprised. If he's on the waiver wire, change that. I think that Pepiot is somebody at this point that you just ride. And if it's 128 innings of really good work, then it's 128 innings of good work. We have to be concerned with, obviously, again, as I noted, the regression to the mean, if you will, with him. But he's checked every box right now. And his next outing is against the Mets, who haven't been overly impressive offensively. So seems like a good bet, if you will, that he'll be able to continue on the success he's had in that next outing as well. He's pitching great. And again, I think the real issue with him is depth. How many innings is he going to be able to throw this year? Because the performance aspect of things is really, really good. Nick Lodolo, my guy, Nick Lodolo, someone we talked about a lot here on the show. Get Nick Lodolo, draft Nick Lodolo. We don't know when he's going to be back from the leg issue, but you got to have Nick Lodolo. Nick Lodolo is, for a guy who hasn't pitched much because of injury the last year and a half, he's been great. You look at his effort last time out, which was last night against the Padres. He was really good. 1 run allowed in 7 innings of work, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. He now has 31 strikeouts in 24 innings, 11.6 strikeouts per 9. He's a dominating strikeout guy, period. And I've said that all along. I think everyone's said that all along. He's a dominant strikeout guy, period. Right? The question is the rest of his game. And the biggest issue for him, if you have this dominant strikeout stuff, is get ahead in the count and don't beat yourself with the walk. He's walked 6 guys. Okay, and his walk rate last year was 2.6 batters per 9 innings. This year, it's 2.3 batters for 9 innings. And for his career, it's 3.1. So if we have a guy who's striking out 11.6 per 9, which is his career mark, with a walk rate below the league average, we're going to have success. Again, that's almost 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, and that just point blank works. And when he has everything working as he did last night, he's a really tough at bat. So right now he's in a groove. Just like with Pepiot, the question is, what do we have for workload? In 2022, he threw about 115 innings. Last year, he threw 50 innings because of injury. So we don't know what the upper end is going to look like here with Lodolo. But he's off to a terrific start. And it's a scenario where there's no reason to doubt that he'll have success. To this level, of course, we have to be cautious of anyone, spinning a 1.88 ERA and a 0.88 WHIP. But he's legit. And we're going to see it this year, I think, from him until we don't see it anymore because they shut him down or delay him or give him a 3-inning start or skip the start. That's going to happen. But he's a really good pitcher and he's in a nice groove right now. Ronald Acuna. What's wrong with Ronald Acuna? Again, I'm redoing the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. They'll be available tomorrow afternoon, the first of every month, April 1st. May 1st. I don't even know what day it is. Sorry. I glanced down at my calendar and saw April. May 1st. And Acuna is going to be a tough one. I put together the initial run. I'll fine-tune it today and tomorrow. What do we do with Ronald Acuna? Because Ronald Acuna right now has got 13 steals. So 13 steals in 27 games. Roughly half a steal a game. Roughly the pace of last season. Okay, when he stole 70 bases. 73 to be exact. So if he's stealing that many bases, no one's going to complain, right? Okay. He's got 1 home run in 27 games, and he's hitting .255. A lot of people focused on Julio Rodriguez and his struggles at the start of the season in the batting average and home run categories. Ronald Acuna's got 1 home run, he's hitting .255. He's got 6 RBIs. Oof. So let's look at this a little bit. His 14% walk rate is terrific. It's terrific. His 26% strikeout rate, not concerning at all. 26% is totally fine. However, 26% strikeout rate would be more than double the 11% mark he had last year. And it would easily be a 3 or 4 year high. The last 3 years, it was 18.1%. So going from 18% over 3 years to 26% right now, that is significant. 8%, it's only 8 percentage points, right? Yeah, but it's 40%. Like, it's a significant growth. That's a little bit of an issue for him. He's not driving the baseball. His isolated power mark, which was 260 last year, is 75 right now. Oof. So really, in Acuna's case, if we didn't have the steals, there'd be panic in the streets. He'd be Corbin Carroll. Let's dig further. The batted ball data is still better than Corbin Carroll. I'm not doing that, but he's lost 3.5 miles per hour on exit velocity. He's seen his barrel rate from last year, this year, almost cut in half from 15 to 8%. His hard hit rate right now, 48%, is a good number, but it would be a 5-year low. So we come back to the launch angle piece with him. And, this is something that we talked about here at fantasyguru.com. I don't know if we talked about it on this show, but I definitely talked about it in articles over at fantasyguru.com. There's a lot of Vlad Guerrero going on with Ronald Acuna. Look at Ronald Acuna's launch angle, and starting back in 2020, 18.6%, 18.2%, 10.8%, 7.4%, 6.8%. He had a 7.4% launch angle last year with 40 home runs, which is almost impossible. He hits the ball extremely hard, kind of like Vlad Guerrero. But if you have a 7% launch angle, you're just not hitting 40 home runs consistently. It's not happening. Remember, it was 7.4 last year. It's 6.8 this year. This would be the 4th year in a row the launch angle's gone down. He went from 18% in the happy zone, let's hit 38 home runs every year, down to single digits. And when you're not lifting the baseball, it's obvious, right? His ground ball rate right now is 55%. Like, that's what we want Esteury Ruiz to do. It's not what we want Ronald Acuna to do. A 2.5 ground ball to fly ball ratio is terrible. It's terrible. It's more than double Acuna's career average. It's terrible. And the concerning thing for me right now that tells me he's just out of sorts is that you would assume if he's hitting everything on the ground and all that. Okay. His pull rate is way up. Last year, his pull rate was 40%. This year, it's 47%. So he's pulling everything on the ground. So is he trying to generate lift? Is he trying to jack the baseball and he's just rolling it over? It's early. It's been a month. There's no panic with Ronald Acuna, but these are not early signs of wow. Now, he's a tremendous talent. Even though the numbers are down, he's hitting the ball very well, very hard, and he's running. So no panic with Ronald Acuna, but yeah. So I just wanted to run through things with Ronald Acuna because, again, heard a lot of things about Corbin Carroll, and it's not the same with Acuna because of his steals, but 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 255. That ain't very good. Now a guy who's doing very, very well, and someone we mentioned on the show yesterday, we talked about him, but just to bring it up again, Joe Adell hit another home run last night. And as much as the home run is exciting, Joe Adell actually hit second last night. Now, the Angels have done this. We've talked about Luis Rengifo here on the show many times. I wrote about him over at fantasyguru.com. He was in the lineup, out of the lineup. He's hitting first, hitting eighth, hitting ninth. He's all over the place. Well, Joe Adell hit second last night. So the Angels have not established a batting order that they're comfortable with. It hasn't happened to date for a variety of reasons. Joe Adell hit second, then we'll get even more interested than we've been. Now, we talked about it yesterday, and in case you missed the show, you can always catch all the shows on demand at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can catch them on the website, fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab. You can find them in your various podcast forms on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily. They're all stored there. So you can go back and listen. But, here's the quick synopsis of Joe Adell. He's got almost 1,000 OPS. He's crushing the baseball right now. And there's lots of positive vibes for him. At the same time, he's a poor defensive player. He's a poor base runner. As I noted yesterday, he's got 5 steals already, which is great. Been caught 4 times, including once where he just ran past. There was one time where he ran past second base. He didn't slide into second base. He didn't stop when he hit second base. He just ran past second base. This guy is, if Butterfingers was the appropriate term, he's not a Butterfinger. Well, he's a guy that struggles at times with the basics of the game. He's also barely 25 years old with a lot of talent, and the talent's flashing through right now. The biggest key for him is that where he's striking out 35% of the time coming into this season, the mark is now 24%. It's a league average mark. If Adell keeps the strikeout rate around the league average, right where he's at now, he's going to have success. There's a huge difference between 24% and 34%. We talk about it all the time. He's going to have success if he does that. So we'll continue to monitor things. The good news is that he is performing so well right now. He's forcing the Angels' hand. I think that, we still have to worry about the strikeouts coming back into his game. We still have to worry about the fact that, for his career, the numbers are pretty poor. We still have to worry about the fact that he's got 35% strikeout rate against righties in his career. He's a 213 hitters against left-handed pitching. Like, there are still issues here. But the early returns with Adell are positive, and I know he's been added by a bunch of folks. We've talked about him here on the show and in Discord. Christopher Morel hit a home run last night, powering the Cubs to a 3-1 victory over the Mets. That 2-run home run late was off of Edwin Diaz, so big-time hit for Christopher Morel. And Morel keeps coming up, and I get the sense, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I get the sense that a lot of people thought Morel was someone that he wasn't. Which, again, I guess like 26 home runs, 70 RBIs last year in 429 plate appearances. I guess people thought he was going 30-90 this year. I mean, I guess that was the expectation based upon the way people have reacted to his struggles. And I'm a little surprised by that because that was certainly not my expectation. And certainly it's not a scenario where I was expecting Christopher Morel to be a star. I think we correctly defined who Morel is. He's a sporadic hitter with positional flexibility. And when he's hot streak, he's going to carry you in a head-to-head week. When he's not, he's going to hurt you in a head-to-head week. And we're 28 games in now, which is a month of work here. And he's hitting 212. But remember, even though he's hitting 212, he's played those 28 games. If we played 160 games at this pace, he would score 90 runs and drive in 80. So that's really not that far off those expectations if he was 30-90. Like, it's pretty close. So what's been the problem? Well, he's hitting 212. His on-base percentage is 280. And after a crazy hot start, he's really gone cold. Much like Joe Adell, though, his strikeout rate is way down. It's gone from 31.2% his first 2 years to 21% this year. If Christopher Morel keeps the K rate there, he's going to have a lot of success, okay? The batting average of 212, I mean, look at his expected batting average. His expected batting average is 274. So underneath the surface of the struggles with Morel is a game that, I want to say it's improved because of the strikeout rate. The exit velocity, the barrel rate, the hard hit rate, these kind of things are, there's marginally down from last year, but they're all within the zone of we could still have a successful offensive player here. I'd be, if you're a Morel person a month and a half ago, I don't know why you still wouldn't be now. I think that's the end, at the end here of this conversation with Christopher Morel. There's some positives with Christopher Morel, and maybe the home run last night gets him going again for the Mets. Another guy that came up was Tyler Nevin, because look, the A's need to have someone that produces, right? And I know that people, when you do a check on the waiver wire, and you say, let's check the batting average and who's hitting well this season. Here comes a kid from the A's hitting 301. You take notice. Maybe you did an on-base percentage check and it's 350. You're like, well, it's Tyler Nevin. Let's go. Tyler Nevin turns 27 in May. 27 in May. He's got a total of 128 games played at the big league level. His OPS is 650. His isolated power mark is 110. I mean, this is... But Ray, he's hitting 300 with a 350 on base rate. He's done very well. But we have to understand, too, much like his teammate early in the season, J.J. Bleday, that you could have a good stretch, but your talent level eventually becomes who you are. Nevin has very little power. He does have 3 home runs and 80 plate appearances, but he's not going to hit 25 home runs. He's not going to steal 10 bases. So even if he hits 275, which I don't think he will, but even if he does, it's going to be 275 with, 11 home runs and 58 RBIs. He's in that Connor Joe zone. Everyone wants Connor Joe to be a thing. Connor Joe's not going to be a thing. Okay. It's the same with Tyler Nevin. Maybe you're riding the Nevin train right now. He's got potentially multi-position flexibility. He is performing well at this point in time, but understand that there are severe limitations. And, one of the biggest limitations is that he's, in his career, and it's 250 plate appearances, but he's hitting 195 against right-handed pitching. Like, you just can't. It just doesn't work. So be very cautious with Tyler Nevin. If you're adding him or have added him, it's short term. When he goes 2 for 21, get the hell out, because there's nothing supportive of the start that suggests it's something that's going to continue. Here's some bad news, but potentially a positive if you can make a switcheroo here. Nolan Jones is finally going to the injured list with the back issue. This took a long time. Luke Zalman of the Denver Gazette, reported that it's going to happen, that the Rockies are going to promote Jordan Beck to, in essence, take his spot here. The Rockies are just searching for it. They've struggled offensively. They dealt with injuries. They called up Hunter Goodman after Toglia struggled. Chris Bryant can't stay healthy. Nolan Jones has had a dismal start to the season. At least now we're going to get him shut down for a bit of time. We don't know if it's going to be 10 days, 2 weeks, a month. We don't know what it is with Nolan Jones, but hopefully they can get him right, because he hasn't been right on the field. Who is Jordan Beck, this guy that the Rockies are calling up? Well, he's a pretty high-level prospect. He's got plus exit velocity numbers. He has power to all fields. He has some swing and miss. He had a 32% strikeout rate last year in Double-A, which is, we talk about this all the time. 32% at Double-A, not going to be 22% at the big league level, right? He's got the ability to hit 30 home runs in the majors. That's the scouting report. He's got the ability to steal 15 bases. He has some speed. So he could be a 30-15 kind of player. I'm not saying this year. I'm saying at full development, right? So he does have power, certainly. Does have some speed. Down on the farm, he had 5 home runs and 5 steals already. He had a 300, 400, nearly 600 slash line. Jordan Beck, come this weekend, if you've got the ability to add a guy right now, you might as well add him right now, right? If you have to wait till Sunday, we'll get some game action here. We'll get further updates from the Rockies about, is this guy going to play every day? Are we going to platoon him? Are we just going to let him loose? That kind of thing. But again, the scouting report is a solid one. The performance has been really good this season. There is that swing and miss in his game, but that power speed combination playing in Coors Field for a team that needs it. If he starts hot, even when Jones and Bryant are back, if he starts hot, they'll find a way to keep him in this lineup. They need offense with the Rockies. Remember the name Jordan Beck. All right, let's go back to the Athletics team. We were just talking about Nevin. Zack Gelof shut down from baseball activities with his oblique issue. Ugh. Sometimes a guy has the oblique and it's, 10 days, 2 weeks. Sometimes it's up to 6 weeks. We talk about this all the time on the show. He went on the injured list last week. I think it was Thursday. But they shut him down from baseball activities. So clearly this is not going to be a 15-day stay on the injured list. We'll see how long this stretches out. We're looking now, I think mid-May is probably the best case scenario with Gelof. It could be late May. This is, at least it's not Tommy John surgery in his elbow as a pitcher, right? But this is a significant hit there. Abraham Toro with the Athletics, hopefully you're not going there. Hopefully you're not. But Gelof is going to be shut down, so that's a negative report, unfortunately, for him. Okay, Christian Yelich with the back issue. We talked about him yesterday on the show. They don't have a target date yet, but they're hopeful that it's coming soonish. He threw from 120 feet yesterday, and I guess that went okay. I mean, even my broken down arm, I can still throw 120 feet, so that's not really saying anything. But it's a step. So let's hope Christian Yelich is back by mid-May as well. That's a good hope at this point. I think it's reasonable. It's a reasonable hope to pin your hopes on, if you will, as I struggle to find the right way to say it. But it's disappointing with Yelich. We talked about it in more depth yesterday. Jhoan Duran is in Chicago, and he actually could be activated today. That was the report yesterday. So coming back from the oblique issue is Duran. It's very likely that he's in the saves mix this week. They've got guys like Thielbar got a save, Jacks, these guys have come through for the most part for the Twins. But we know Duran throwing his 100 miles an hour is the guy there. Maybe an outing, maybe two. That'd be the most. And probably one. Hell, they might throw him out there in the ninth inning, right? But again, reports are suggestive it could happen as early as today. So if you've been waiting for Duran, he makes it back just in time to potentially see the field in April. Didn't miss the entire month. Craig Kimbrel is day-to-day with back tightness. We didn't have the update yesterday. We knew Kimbrel's back was an issue. We talked about adding Yelich Cano. We didn't know how much time he's going to miss. We still don't directly know how much time Kimbrel's going to miss, but they're calling him day-to-day, which is obviously a good thing. It's not a scenario where he blew this thing out. It's not a scenario where they're expecting the injured list at this point. So good news overall with Craig Kimbrel. Justin Steele also got good news. He's coming back from the hamstring issue. We talked about going to the minors and making a start. I think yesterday we talked about on the show, is it one start or two starts? Is it early May, mid-May? Sounds like it might just be one start for him on the farm. So if he goes out, Justin Steele feels good. The ball comes out of his hand. Everything looks okay. It could just be one start for the leader of the Cubs bull rotation, which would be good news in the fantasy space, because at this point in time, we could take every start we can get, obviously, at the big league level. Kodai Senga's got the shoulder issue, who we've talked about, everyone's talked about, because this has been an ongoing thing for Kodai Senga. Face hitters on Monday for the first time since February. So this is another significant step. He talked to the reporters and said that he hopes that by May 27th, when he can be activated, he'll be good to go. We'll see. It's still a month away, right? So, Senga's something. We talked about the shoulder issue when it happened. We talked about what the doctors were saying and the fact that, they're not going to push him. They're going to take this slow. There's no concern at the moment of him blowing his arm out, but if he has any setbacks with the shoulder, they got to shut him back down. So the Mets have been very slow paced with this, deliberate, I guess is a better way to put it. They even extended out that shutdown period a little longer than they anticipated to make sure. Sounds like that's played well to this point. So now it's a matter of him, continuing to ramp things up. He is eligible to return at the end of May, which is a long time from now. But let's hope that he's available to come back, because if he's the guy he was last year and you get that injection, that's huge, right? Unfortunately, the situation with Senga is what it is, but he's slowly progressing in the right direction. Jesus Luzardo, Jesus Luzardo went down and panicked in the streets because, it's his elbow. What the hell's going on? Left flexor muscle strain is what it's been called. Originally, it was elbow tightness and everyone got nervous. I saw Luzardo speaking to the media, and it was he's very well spoken, by the way. Sat there and took questions, about a 2.5-minute bit. I think I tweeted it at the Ray Flowers. But he went through he answered multiple questions and explained things in great depth. He basically said that, he's hurt his arm before. He knows what that is. This is not what this is. They want to just be careful and cautious and everything. Saw a video of him yesterday throwing the ball in the outfield, and he was throwing it 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour. He wasn't soft tossing. He was throwing the ball. So, he's trending in the right direction. Since it's just a strain, it's very reasonable to think that, he might miss just a couple of starts and be back in 10 to 15 days from now, 2 weeks, right? Something like that. It's very reasonable. Now, again, caveats abound, right? Because you know what that means. But it's as we sit here today, sigh of relief. It doesn't look like Luzardo's blown anything out. Sigh of relief. Doesn't look like this is going to be something significant. We'll hope that continues to be the case as we move forward, but progressing in the right direction, which is not something we often say here. So I'm glad to say that with Jesus Luzardo, who has struggled on the field this season, as we're all aware. Cade Cavailli is someone that was on my Dynasty League team that I talk about all the time. He was let go, carrying guys for 2 years while they're coming back from surgery and all that. Even with the 45-man roster we have, I just had to move on. He's finally moving in the right direction for the Nationals. And he threw a live session on Monday. The reports are that he looked really good. His fastball was averaging about 96 miles an hour. So clearly the arm strength is getting to the point where he can ramp up the velocity. Now he needs to build up the stamina piece of that a little bit more. He's going to start a rehab assignment probably in a couple of weeks. Then it'll depend upon how he pitches. He could be up in the Nationals rotation by the end of May. That could happen. He could also come back and struggle for location or velocity or pitch. There's all these things. But there is a path to him pitching in the big leagues in May. I would like to think that June is probably more reasonable. But even that, it might be the second half. But the Nationals, they're going to want to get Cavailli work this year and start the ramping back up of the workload piece coming back from the surgery. Even if he is promoted this year, remember, this is not a guy in Cavailli that's going to throw 120 innings this year. The rest of the way, he's just going to make a start every 5 days, and they're just going to let him rip. That's just not going to be what happens. They're going to be very cautious because even though he's 25 years old now, he does have front of the rotation stuff. And he and Mackenzie Gore, righty lefty, that's a very intriguing 1-2 punch if they can work that out. In 2022, he threw about 100 innings. Last year, he threw 0 innings. And then we got this year. So again, this is a scenario where, where he was kind of building up before. He threw about 125 innings in 2021. That number went down in 2022 and then was 0 last year. So, if he throws 100 innings this year, that's great. It's probably going to be closer to 80. That's probably what's going to happen. So we'll see how many bullets they let him throw down on the farm versus at the major league level. But he is too also moving in the right direction. By the way, the thing's a little different today. I left up my little faces in the corner there with Josh Donaldson and Mike Trout, and I left up the show plan. Do you like that? Is that better or worse? Let me know in the comment section. Do you like it when I leave who we're talking about up versus seeing my face full, or do you rather see my smiley face? Hey. By the way, you can get the promo code FSD20. There it is. You can still get the off-season franchise package over at fantasyguru.com for football. Franchise mode is what it's called. You get all the off-season data in terms of free agent signings and movement and the draft info. So check that out. Right now it's available. And then, of course, if you get the baseball DFS or baseball wagering package, you get NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, soccer, and racing for free added into the mix. So sign up for that baseball package. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab at the top in the right-hand corner, and you're off to the races. Okay. I talked earlier about some concerns that I've shared over the years about baseball and where it's going. And Jeff Mans and I have been talking about this. And, I think Jeff has gotten hit a little harder than I have, though I've taken my fair share of smashes too. You hate baseball. You don't like baseball. Why? Where did your love of the game go? You hear all these things. And it's like, look, it's not, none of that is what's going on. When I say what's wrong with fantasy baseball, when I write thousands of words in the preseason, what's wrong with fantasy baseball, when I talk about changing scoring systems in fantasy baseball, when I do all this, it's because I want this game to thrive. And just being straight up honest with everyone, I know there's a lot of people out there that think everything is just fine. It's not. The fantasy baseball space is shrinking, period. It's an empirical fact. There are aspects of this, the NFBC, and there are aspects of this that are as strong or stronger than ever. But as a whole, as a universe, the fantasy baseball universe is not dying. It's regressing. Okay. And that's, you see this in sales, you see it in interactions. This is just how it is. Okay. And it's been going this way for years, and it started to accelerate when COVID hit in 2020. So we've tried very hard to kind of be ahead of that and try to spur people on to doing different new things, changing the way they think. We talk all the time about offense-only leagues. We did home run derby drafts in the off season with the help of RT Sports. I've run polls all the time. Should we be doing this or that? Trying to take everyone's pulse and everything like that, because we've always understood that the arrow is pointing down and we need it to point back up. Broader picture, when you talk about the world of sports, my nephew, who's in 8th grade right now, loves wrestling and basketball. Jeff Mann's son, who's the same age as my brother's son, loves baseball, sure, but he loves basketball and football. Like the kids today, they don't necessarily gravitate toward baseball, and I understand it. I mean, we used to play baseball, my friends and I. There'd be 6 of us. We'd have to say you can't hit the ball to right field. Have to make up all these rules because we're playing 3-on-3 baseball, right? Like it's very tough to get 18 people together, even to get 9 to just field a full team is very difficult. You got to have a big ass grass field that's open. You got to have, if you're going out there, you're not going out with one ball. You got to have 20 balls. You got to have 3 bats. Everyone's got to have cleats and gloves. It's expensive. It's time consuming, and you need a lot of space. Basketball, you just need a hoop on a side of a tree, for God's sakes, a garage. And if you have 2 people, you can play one-on-one. If you got 3 people, 4 people, it's much easier to play with a smaller group. It's sexier to play basketball. Seeing Jason Tatum drive down the lane and power dunk over someone's way cooler than, watching Tyler Nevin hit a home run. It just is. And we've talked a lot about the fact that Major League Baseball has struggled to really monetize their stars. Like we joke around, like if Mike Trout walked past the average person on the street, I don't think they'd even know who he was. Christian McCaffrey walks down the street, everyone in the world's going to know who he is. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just different. And the football players wear helmets. So the data has been suggestive of a downturn. And certainly that has been felt in the fantasy space. But what about the real world space? I found an article over at over at MLB.com, and it was really interesting. Where is that article? There it is. The commissioner's office shared the following information. You can see it on the screen there. We'll go through the points. And this is interesting, intriguing, and hopeful. I'm just going to read what they put out. Viewership from fans 18 to 24 on MLB TV was up 11% in 2023. That's great. It's not a huge number, but hey, 11% is significant. The average age of an MLB TV viewer has dropped 4 years from 48 to 44 since 2018. Now, multiple things going on here. Dropping from 48 to 44 is good. It's still 44 years of age. That number needs to be 34. That number needs to be 24. That number needs to be younger. It's still in the mid-40s. You also, when you talk about MLB TV, you start talking about paying for services and all that. 22-year-old's not going to pay for a premium service, right? You got other things. You got to pay your car payment. You got to pay your apartment that you're sharing with your 4 buddies. You don't have necessarily expendable income to go get a subscription to MLB TV. So, there's that too. So that naturally is going to skew things a little bit older because that's where the disposable income is, obviously. But good news. Small, but a good positive step. PlayFi Sports audience data shows the MLB and the NFL have nearly identical audience makeups with 50% of their viewers under 44. Okay, that to me is who cares? The football viewers and the baseball viewers are the same age. Who cares? There are 20 times more football viewers. Like the age is, that data point, who cares? The average age of newly created accounts in MLB's fan database has fallen by more than 7 years, from 43 years of age to 36 years of age since 2019. And the average age of active users in the database has fallen by 1.4 years in that same time frame. Now, again, this is good news, right? And that's always been the issue that we've talked about, because for open transparency, I turned 50. How old am I? 50? I'm above this age, right? But I know my friends and I used to go to ball games all the time. No one calls me up and says, hey, let's go on a Sunday or a Saturday. And it's not because we're not friends anymore. People just don't go anymore. It's expensive. It's hard to get to the stadiums. We all deal with this, right? You got other things. Your kids are playing sports themselves. You're trying to navigate this. It's just difficult. So I know from personal experience that, this age number might be dropping, and that's good news. But again, 43 to 42, 43 to 36, newly created accounts. Okay, but it's still 36 years of age. And again, some of this is we got to create accounts. That means we got to go on our computer and sign up for things and all that. 23-year-olds are doing TikTok. They're not doing this. So, that does not mean that undercover that younger fans aren't increasing. It just means that the data they are able to pull is going to be from people that are older. But again, it is going down, which is good. The opening of the 2024 baseball season saw major increases in national and international viewership, record gains in social media followers, and engagement on the most watched 4-day period in MLB TV's history. That's good too. Now, a lot of this comes down to, as well, I would assume, advertising. We talk about this on, Shark Tank all the time, right? If you watch Shark Tank, what's your customer acquisition cost? That's what Mr. Wonderful says all the time. What is it? If Major League Baseball is advertising, well, of course people are going to sign up because it's in their face now. How much of that is the advertising spend? Is the advertising exposure in terms of the amount of times they run commercials on? Is it the same as it's been in the past, or has that increased? If we up that 50% and we only saw a growth of 4%, well, it's not a great return on your investment, right? So I don't have those data numbers, but again, positive. We're going in the right direction. The median age of an MLB ticket buyer has dropped 6 years from me, 51, to maybe you at 45 since 2019. Okay. Again, really positive, but still old. And obviously reasonable given the expenditures. If you're paying $50 a ticket and you're getting 4 tickets, well, again, how many times is a 22-year-old going to have $200 laying around to buy tickets, and then $25 for parking, and then $50 for food? All right. So, okay. This next part is interesting. I will say that since 2019, that number's gone from 51 to 45 for the average ticket buyer. But there's a 9.8% increase in ticket buyers ages 18 to 35. That's really good news. Now, ticket sales are about the least important thing. Teams don't even care about ticket sales, if we're being honest. There's so much money in TV and merchandise and all that. The ticket sales really are very low priority. But again, positive news. Now, you can counter that. In the old days, we used to go to the stadium and buy tickets, right? You go to the box office and buy tickets. Anyone do that anymore? You don't even get tickets anymore. Hell, everything's digital now. You don't even get tickets. Terrible move by Major League Baseball to stop giving out tickets, by the way. But how much of this increase since 2019 is the new offerings by Major League Baseball with making things simpler online, making the process smoother online, making it more, you know what I mean? So, but again, positive. So as we go through this, it's clear the data is saying that the younger fans are showing more interest than they did 5 years ago, which is great news. Is 45 younger? You know what I mean? It's like, okay. And again, I went through some of the reasons why, okay. But overall, this is good news. And this is what I need to see. This is what I want to see, because this shows that Major League Baseball at least has stopped the downward arrow, right? It's at least at a worst case scenario, even if I'm right about all my concerns, it's flatlined. If I'm wrong about any of those concerns and this data is 100% accurate, then it's going up, which is great news. So let's bring that back to the fantasy space and have that final transition before we hit the comments in the chat room. What does this mean globally for the fantasy baseball game? Where are we at in 2024? We'll do a post-mortem when the season's over. I always look back, what I do right, what I do wrong. We always do that every year. But we know that there's a real problem in fantasy baseball. And we talk about it on virtually every show, right? Even if I don't say it, you know it. Pitching is a problem. It's just a problem. And we need to fix it. The sport doesn't work if every team is starting 22 pitchers each year because all these guys get hurt, right? Calling these guys up, spot starters, bullpen guys, openers, all that. It just doesn't work. If we're looking to grow the sport, no offense, Tyler Alexander, but no one's buying a ticket to watch Tyler Alexander pitch. No one. There's too many Tyler Alexanders starting games. In the old days, what you would do, because I'm old, I remember doing this. You'd pull out the newspaper, you'd get the schedule for the team, you get the schedule for the rotation, and you'd say, okay, we can go Saturday or Sunday. Who's pitching Saturday? Who's pitching Sunday? We're going Saturday. We used to do that. Everyone used to do that. That's how you chose. I mean, if everything's being equal, who do we get to see pitch? Now, some people would say they pick the crappy pitchers hoping to see more offense. I think most people, including us, would say, we want to see Fernando Valenzuela or Dwight Gooden. So we're going the day those guys are pitching, right? Especially back in the day when every game wasn't on TV or the internet and you never saw these guys. Like I would see Dwight Gooden pitch once a year. Dr. K, oh my God, he's fantastic. He's in the newspaper all the time. Never seen this guy. I want to go and watch him pitch. Okay. That's how we used to do it. Nowadays, you can't do that. You could sit there on a Monday and say, do we go Saturday or Sunday for the matchup? Who do we take? You're not even guaranteed a week from now to have the matchup work. Hell, you could buy tickets on a Monday for a Wednesday, and it might not be the person you expected to pitch. It's not good for baseball. It's not good. People then go to the game. They're upset. They're disappointed. So there are issues with how teams are running their rotations, but the biggest key is obviously they're doing what they have to do because of the fact guys get hurt. So Major League Baseball really needs to fix that. And this is a huge problem in basketball. And they've instituted new rules. And again, I don't know what the rules in baseball, and that's a whole different topic. But they've instituted new rules in basketball. You can't rest without permission unless you're a certain age. You have to play a certain amount of games to be eligible for awards. They're doing this because teams were just resting guys. Michael Jordan could play 82 games when he's 38 years old, but these 26-year-olds can't play 70. It's bizarre. But there's been a move by the NBA itself to put some safeguards in place here because they're realizing fans and people playing fantasy basketball are getting pissed off that these guys are playing 71 out of 82 games or 66 out of 82 games. They're just pissed off about that. I don't know how Major League Baseball works around that. It's a different series of challenges, but that's another part of this too. You have to have your product be a good product. And I guess at some point when all the 45-year-olds and the 50-year-olds age out of this, maybe the game in terms of its popularity will rise up a little bit, because if you're 12 years old right now, this is the baseball You're used to each team starting 16 guys over the course of the season, and you're used to opener games, and you're used to bullpen games. You're used to that. That's what you grew up watching. I didn't grow up watching that. I grew up watching Kelly Downs and Rick Russell throw 7 innings for the Giants every 5 games. That's what I saw, right? Nowadays, it's not the way the game is played. So when this next generation grows up, they start having kids and introducing, this is just how the game is played. So maybe in that generation, people will get past it. But for this generation of people now that are in that 45 to 50 range that we talk so much about here, that's not how any of us grew up. So it's hard to get motivated. So I think that's part of the issue too. But again, fantasy-wise, what do we do? And don't tell me fantasy baseball is fine. It's not. Okay? It's not. We can all act like it's not. What do we do? I run polls all the time. I ask questions all the time. Offense-only leagues, head-to-head leagues, different scoring formats, different roster decision formats, different waiver wire format, all these things. Suggestions are welcome because we need to do something. We need our numbers in the fantasy space to mirror these numbers we're talking about for Major League Baseball and their viewership. We need our numbers to go up 11%. Because what's happened is, my sense, and I don't have data to prove this, but I think it's very logical. My sense is completely that people have gotten pissed off and upset with the way the game goes. They've transitioned from seasonal to DFS. They play baseball every day. They play it 4 days a week. They're playing DFS. They get their return that day. They win money that day. They have success that day. And better yet, if they fail that day because something didn't go right, they just fix it tomorrow. Seasonal baseball, it's getting harder and harder to do that, right? There's the wagering thing too. Hell, we have a show, the Elite Sports Game Time show at 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday on Sirius XM. I mean, that's basically what we do on that show, is we talk all about the DFS lineups we put together. And we talk all about I should learn how to use this. We talk all about the DFS articles that we write and the bets we've played. That's the whole show is about. So those are just some general thoughts. Happy to listen to your thoughts. Again, I think we need to work as a community to make sure that our numbers mirror those which Major League Baseball is sharing, which is incremental but positive. I guess that's the bottom line. And it's a good bottom line to have. I like that. All right, some comments here before we shut things down here. And again, we're here with you Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Speaking of performance, what's wrong with Tatis? Asks Chaka. What is wrong with Tatis? Is anything wrong with Tatis? Again, it's been a month. I always throw that caveat out there. I think the number one thing with Tatis is he's healthy, right? And he is. His performance to date is way better than Ronald Acuna. He's got 6 times as many home runs, 2 times as many RBIs. What's wrong with Tatis? We'll look at him real quickly here. Tatis hit 257 last year. Remember that. This is not a 290 hitter. He was at 317 as a rookie. Hasn't been that guy since. His isolated power mark is the same as last year. His OPS is basically the same as last year. Exit velocity is the same as last year. Launch angle is the same as last year. Barrel rate, hard hit rate, basically the same as last year. Walk to strikeout rate, slightly better. So that's an improvement. His ground ball to fly ball ratio, basically the same as last year. There's just a lot of similarity to last year. The fact is that a couple of hits haven't fallen. I don't think there's any reason to panic with Tatis. The concern is staying healthy. And, he's going to run, but it's difficult when your on-base percentage is league average. And since the start of last season, it's basically been league average. It was much better prior to the injuries and all the other stuff. He was putting up 365. Now we're in the 320 zone. That's a big difference. So I think Tatis will be just fine. My concern is health with him. Kane, 863 Kane says, what up, Ray? Falter failed us. Yes, he did. Gave up 5 runs last night. I saw a note. Well, at least his whip was 1-2, and he had a strikeout an inning. Something. Very disappointing effort against the A's. We'll see if he can get it done against the Rockies later in the week. Jason L says, Lodolo is fun to watch. Yeah, he sure is, isn't he? And he's, again, as we discussed, 11 strikeouts last night. He's pitching really well here in the early season, coming back from the leg issue last year. Chuck has another comment. I signed Lodolo to a 3-year contract back in 2022. Suffered last year, but I'm enjoying him staying on the field. Yes, Chaka. Big performance coming from Lodolo to date. Beck or over Doyle in Colorado. I'm going to stick with the Doyle right now, Brett and Doyle, because, again, Beck, and this is just with these rookies, we don't know if they're going to stick in the lineup. Remember Jonathan Klaus of the Mariners? Everyone had to get him a while back. What happened? He got 3 weeks and they demoted him. So if Beck hits, as I said earlier, he'll stay. If he struggles a little bit, even if he's average, because again, we got Jones and Bryant. That's 2 guys in the outfield, right? What does Hunter Goodman do? Does Michael Toglia figure things out on the farm? They got a lot of guys and they're just trying to find it. So Beck stays if he performs. If he doesn't perform, they'll just demote him. Doyle right now is locked into the lineup. I'll stick with Doyle. Angelo, I prefer whichever you like, your choice. Oh, Angelo, I don't know what that's in reference to, but thank you. I appreciate your support. Shaka says, the world is short attention span, immediate gratification world, fantasy baseball, and baseball itself doesn't lend itself to it. You're totally right. Totally. And that's an issue that baseball is always going to face. As the world gets faster, even if we cut out 14 minutes from a baseball game, as the world gets faster, baseball just can't keep up. You have a computer in your pocket. I've told the story. When I'm old enough to remember when the internet was just getting going, it would take me 40 seconds to download an email. Pull a stopwatch out and do it yourself on your phone and go 40 seconds, go. Like I could sit here and waste 40 seconds on the show. But that's how long it took to get an email. Now the thing in your pocket, you can pull up the most complex website in the world in 5 seconds. So yeah, the world is just a different place. And baseball is always going to struggle with the way the world is developed. Jason L says, like to see it pop up from time to time, at least if jumping in late to see talking points for the day. Oh, okay. So you like the overview. Maybe I'll do that more just to kind of point out what's going on. I think it's a good idea, Jason. Thanks for mentioning that. Stickball in Philly, a broomstick, half a tennis ball, and we played in the middle of the street. Yeah, we played a lot of wiffle balls, kids, too. I'm fortunate enough, I was a 4-minute walk or 1-minute bike ride to the fields. We lived, I grew up in a spot where our houses were in a little community. There was a lagoon, and the other side of the lagoon was the fields. I actually lived right in, back in the day, there were the baseball fields there, the soccer fields and everything. The fields were there. And 3 miles away was what am I trying to say? Why am I drawing a total blank? Marine World. Jeez. Marine World, where they had all the animals and everything like that. That was right there. I used to literally, when I was a kid, go out in my front yard to get the newspaper, and I'd hear the roar, roar, roar. I could hear the lions roaring because there was nothing between us and Marine World. So yeah, we played a lot of fun. So we'd go to the field most of the time, but we also played a lot of wiffle ball. Isabel says, drops a plenty in a 10-team league with no bench. A 10-team league with no bench is an intriguing league. It's going to be very challenging all season long. My 5th outfielder is Taylor Ward, who is slowed down. Available are Morel, Winker, Canna, Merrill, Loperfido, who qualifies. Ward isn't sexy. Do I hold or move? I'll say it kindly as I can, Isabel. In a 10-team league is really small. A no-bench league makes that even smaller. You get no bonus points for having patience. I would never play in a league like this because it encourages you to do the following. Drop Taylor Ward, who is slowed down, even though Taylor Ward's going to be just fine this season. Like I would never, in any of my leagues, I would never consider for a second dropping Taylor Ward. In your setup, you can consider dropping him because it's a small league, made even more small by the fact you have no bench. At the same time, when I'm in a league this small, Loperfido, he's exciting, he's intriguing. We talked about him on the show yesterday. I'm not adding a rookie in a 10-team league with no bench. What if he hits 180 to start? What if he does a Jackson Holiday? I'm just not adding a rookie. So that removes him. The other guys, Morel's a streaky hitter. He's not in a good streak right now. Winker's a streaky hitter. Winker's gone in the toilet worse than Ward the last couple of weeks. Mark Canna is your best bet right now. Is Mark Canna a guy that you should be starting in a 10-team league? Not really. He's barely someone you want to start in a 12-team league. I think in your scenario, he'd probably be the best pickup. Merrill's a little beat up, so I think Canna's the best choice if you want to make a move. But again, that's a really tough league that you got yourself in there. Chaka's into it this morning. Monthly roto leagues, draft on the last day of every month. You win money each month in best overall. We talked about this a lot, and maybe I'll have a show talking about some of these formats in more depth. This is a good idea. I like this an awful lot. You draft a new team every month. The problem is people don't have 3 hours to do a draft every month. You can't do a slow draft because you can't have the draft, you can't have a draft start on, let's say April 29th and have it be done on May 1st, right? The draft isn't going to get done until May 5th, right? And then a week of the, almost an entire week of the month has already gone by. People are only going to add players because they had a great 4 days to start May. It's going to throw everything out. Someone hits 3 home runs, he's going to be a second-round draft pick, So great idea. You would have to do it in a scenario where it's much smaller. And basically, I think you'd have to do 9 players and 5 pitchers and just have it be it. Have no bench, have no movement. I think it'd almost have to be a best ball kind of scenario, or at least just a draft and hold, because then you could have the draft take an hour and 15 minutes versus 3 hours. Because speaking from experience, it's very hard to get people to sit down and do a draft. Everyone wants to do slow drafts. I hate slow drafts. They're the worst. You can't have a slow draft in season. You can't do it. Injuries and all, you can't. You have to do it at one point in time. So it would be practically very difficult to do. Isabel, again, I'm fascinated by CJ Abrams. He's done all this work and his game is evolving every day. Who is a comparison? Who is Abrams becoming? Oh, it's a good question. Abrams is someone I've talked about a ton. Abrams is someone who the scouting community, including myself, has always loved. I thought that, he'd be a 20-50 guy if everything came together. It might be better than that. It might be the 30 home runs that you mentioned. There's just not that many. I mean, who goes 30-30 consistently? Who goes 20-40 consistently? I mean, he's kind of in his own zone. He's not Ronald Acuna. He doesn't have that much power. He's not Mike Trout. He doesn't have that much power. But if you look back at Trout at his early career, he went 30-49 that one year, I think. I'm struggling to find a fair comp because if Abrams is going 25-40 consistently, I mean, I almost want to say, and this is going way back, one of my favorite players to ever watch, I almost want to say it's Eric Davis. And for those people that remember beat up Eric Davis late in his career, don't remember Eric Davis when he was, hitting 28 home runs and stealing 80 bases. I mean, that's high praise. And I think it's one that fits based upon the skill set pretty well. And Angela says, Ken has a doubleheader today. True. The game was rained out yesterday with the Tigers. So back to Isabel's question, you get an extra game if you pick him up and he's active in your lineup today. Good comments, good questions. Thank you for doing that, everyone. I really appreciate it. Hope you like the format of what we got going here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Happy to be here with you every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Get that all-in package. Use the promo code 50SPECIAL. There it is for the VIP Platinum package. You get everything we do at fantasyguru.com with a 50% discount, 50 special. The rest of the day today, I'm going to continue to wrench on the rankings. Those will be available. Remember, all the rankings for the seasonal aspect are updated the first of every month. Totally started from scratch. Brand new, all over again. They'll be available tomorrow. They won't be up before the show. I doubt that, but they'll be up tomorrow at some point. I got to go write the cash game breakdown for fantasyguru.com. I've got the show later tonight with Justin Fensterman, Elite Sports Game Time, 8:10 Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Jeff Mans has his show, Elite Sports, from 3 to 6 Eastern. Tune in for that. All the football talk that we're not doing here being done on that show. Tomorrow we're planning a visit with Chris Rose. So hopefully we'll be able to get him in. We'll talk some DFS. We had him on previously. He's a great guest. He's extremely successful. We had him on last time. He said, do A and B with the Royals. He went out and did A and B with the Royals. He won $1,100 that night. So we'll get him on here and talk a little bit about how the first month of the season has gone, pick his brain a little bit as well. On Thursday, we do have a football guest. Tyler Beaker will be with us on Thursday. So we got some guests lined up. And then Friday, we might talk NASCAR and baseball again. I think Chris might stop by twice this week, talk some baseball. But bottom line is we got stuff coming in the rest of the week. All those folks, all their work over at fantasyguru.com, get all of it. Again, the VIP Platinum membership package for discount of 50% using that promo code 50SPECIAL. I'm off to do the writing. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by Fantasy Guru.